continuing with different types of prophets. The path of the ear, the path of the eyes, and the path of the heart. Those are the three pathways. A man can see a vision with his eyes closed. A man can also see a vision with his eyes opened. There are visions that I have seen. The thing I saw was as real as someone standing in front of me. I believe that God limits those kind of manifestations because He understands that we are in the human body, and if we keep seeing it like that, we may not be able to separate reality, our basic human reality, from the visions that He gives us. The visions of the heart. It's almost like I'm seeing it, but I'm not seeing it with my two eyes. I'm seeing it like images popping up in my heart. And those images can be very graphic. They can take a while. It can be like a video that I'm seeing, but I know that it's not in front of me. Okay, again, I'm continuing with different types of prophets. If this is the first one, there's a previous video where I explained and I sort of went into the different kinds of prophets that exist. Now, let me still continue with it. Now, there are times when, because of a misunderstanding of the pathways through which prophetic directions come. Some of us who are prophets, because we do not understand this, we miss out on the information. And again, if you don't get the information, interpretation is far, because you have to first get the information for you to interpret. So it's very important that the information, you are able to receive it and you clearly understand it. Now, I mentioned visual, auditory, and that inner witness thing. Now, those are the three pathways. The path of the ear, the path of the eyes, and the path of the heart. The eyes doesn't mean that the physical eyes are open. A man can see a vision with his eyes closed. All right. A man can also see a vision with his eyes opened. Okay. There are visions that I have seen. The thing I saw was as real as someone standing in front of me. But this is now my personal deduction. I believe that God limits the manifestation, those kind of manifestations, because He understands that we are in the human body, and if we keep seeing it like that, we may not be able to separate reality, our basic human reality, from the visions that He gives us. Imagine if you were not certain if what you were seeing was a human being or an angel, because of how very concrete it appears. But I've had visions quite like that. Again, they are not the everyday thing, and my explanation to it, for it, now it may be every day for somebody else, but for me, they're not the everyday thing. I get very concrete visions, but I don't get them all the time like I do the visions of the heart. So it's almost like I'm seeing it, but I'm not seeing it with my two eyes. I'm seeing it like images popping up in my heart. Images, and those images can be very graphic. They can take a while. It can be like a video that I'm seeing, but I know that it's not in front of me. Do you understand this? So I know that the image is not in front of me. It's popping up in the eye of my spirit. All right. So there's also auditory. I also believe that God doesn't allow us to hear as much loud voices, so that we might be able to separate what is real and earthly from what is ethereal and all. But at the same time, it happens. I get it. People get it. I know people who get a lot of auditory voices, and somehow, by the help of God, they are able to tell that this is God's voice and this is the voice of a friend or a man. But then there are also times, I know people who have regular. In fact, that's like all they have. When it comes, sometimes did you hear that? They ask those questions, and it happens to me too. Did you hear this? But I believe that in God's mercy, He allows us to be able to hear it more in the ears of our heart and the ears of our spirit, so that we may be able to. Again, this is not doctrine; it's just my deduction based on the knowledge of the love of God, and He keeps the auditory in such a way that we can separate it from the voice of a friend in the neighborhood, differentiate that voice of God from the voice of our environment and all of that. And then there's, of course, then the sensory part from the heart. Now, those are the pathways, all right. But then there are higher pathways. There's a pathway of dreams. There's a pathway of visions. There's a pathway of, like I said, pretend that I'm speaking like God is the source, trickles down into dreams, visions, and whatever, trickles down into auditory, visuals, and all of that. So I've come from the auditory, visuals, and the feelings in the heart. So I'm moving a little higher upstream. So there are dreams, there are visions, what we call open visions, trances, body signs, okay, and all of these things. I'm going to talk about them as we progress. But let me start with dreams before this particular podcast ends. A dream is a vision that the man gets when he's asleep. That's a simple definition. It doesn't have to happen at night. It doesn't have to happen in the morning. It's just that the man sees and hears things when he's asleep. Now, dreams also come through these pathways, and if someone is not aware, he will not realize that he may be experiencing the result of a dream. So the general idea people have, all of us have with dreams, is visuals. So you see and you hear. So you see something, you see a person, you encounter an event in the dream, and then you hear words being spoken in the dream. But there are times when none of these two happens. You just wake up in the morning and you feel a feeling. It looks like as if an instruction has been sealed inside of you, but it was sealed at night or when you slept. Before you slept, you didn't feel that way. Before you slept, you didn't know that thing. Before you slept, you weren't feeling that churning of the spirit within you. But as you woke up, you started feeling it. You've had a dream. But the dream is not visual or auditory. It's internal. And I also believe that by the mercy of God, God does it that way so that dreams that we forget. Again, if you follow this podcast, I'll be teaching you how to remember at least 80% of your dreams. It's such a blessing. I remember when I learned it, when the Lord taught it to me, such a blessing, so practical. I'll be teaching it to you as we progress, how to remember at least 80% of your dreams, all right? So simple, the technique, so simple that you may even know it, and Benny doesn't know that it's a technique that works. Dreams come and you feel the feeling. I believe God does it sometimes so that in case we forget what we saw and what we heard, the feeling will linger in our soul and our spirit. And that feeling many times is very important when it comes to interpretation of the dream. So your dreams can contain or can pass through all three pathways, can pass through your visions, can pass through your auditory, and can pass through your feelings. So sometimes you have a dream when you wake up, you feel a certain way. So you have a dream when you wake up, you know you saw something, you know you heard something. So dreams are perceptions from the Lord that we get when we sleep. Afternoon, morning, night sleep. Okay. Of course, there are different kinds of dreams. There are dreams that are not exactly from the Lord, that are from your circumstance and your environment. But because I'm in a prophetic teaching, I'm expecting people I'm talking to, prophets and people who know that I'm speaking about perceptions that they receive from the Lord. I'll see you in the next one. Enjoy. How do you interpret your dreams? But there are people enter into all kinds of manipulation because they were fed in the dream. I do not recommend dream interpretation manuals. The reason being that